We're here today with Bishop Joseph Hanefeldt, the new Bishop of the Diocese of Grand Island. And Bishop, I thank you for joining us here today and spending a little bit of time and allowing the people of the Diocese of Lincoln to get to know you a little bit better.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to introduce myself to the people of the Diocese of Lincoln as well. So.
Bishop, you are a native of Creighton, Nebraska, and if maybe just to begin, tell us a little bit about your family life and especially the life of faith that you grew up with.
Sure. Yeah, born and raised on a farm about 10 miles north of Creighton. My father was Missouri Synod Lutheran, entered the church when he married my mom back in 1953. I was raised to go to church every Sunday. Mom took us to confession probably every 2 or 3 weeks on a Saturday. And so I think I had a regular, formation by example. And I got to be a part of church choir as well as cantor since 8th grade. And so foundationally, that's kind of the basics of my background in religion. So.
And before deciding to go into the seminary, were there other pursuits you had in your life, other vocations you were seeking, and occupations at one point?
I really, I grew up on a farm. I wasn't very, I wouldn't say I was really all that interested in farming. I didn't think that was really my talent. But what was really, I would say, big for me was Roe versus Wade. I was a freshman in high school when Roe versus Wade happened, and I was so stunned that was actually legalized. I couldn't believe it. And I said to myself, I've got to do something about that. Or I've got to do something to make the world a better place. But I was thinking more in terms of politics. I was going to get a degree in political science. I thought if I could, the government was the answer, changing laws, etc. But throughout high school, actually, I was asking the Lord to show me what it was that He wanted me to do. So I suppose this is moving into my vocation story, but really, it was in my senior year in high school when I had a chance to visit St. John Vianney Seminary in Minnesota. I walked into that seminary and it was like clear. This is my vocation. It was priesthood. And
could you describe your reaction when you found out that Pope Francis had named you the Bishop of Grand Island?
On a Saturday morning, December 20th, looked at my phone and I saw that the light was blinking. I thought, because we cover Methodist Hospital in Omaha, we're right there. I thought, if this is the hospital, I better see what the call is before I start my homily. And it was, of course, the fourth Sunday of Advent. The gospel is the Annunciation. Let it be done to me according to your word. And I answered the phone, and it was Archbishop Vigano, the nuncio in Washington from the Vatican, his voice asking me to please call the nunciature as soon as I got the message. And so, sure enough, and that's what the Archbishop Vigano said, can you say yes? And so I did, and I was thinking afterwards, how would I have said on Sunday the next day to everyone, do what Mary did?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have. So in many ways, I think Our Lady prepared me.
You chose as your Episcopal motto, "Remain in me." What led you to select that, and what's some of the background behind that?
The Remain in Me comes from a couple of retreats that I've done. It's a place, where I've gone back to in prayer, and it has grown in my heart over probably the last 5 years now as the way of the Christian life. That He who remains in me and I in Him will bear much fruit. The idea, apart from me you can do nothing. And the image of the vine and the branches from which it comes in John 15 really is, I think, a way of living the Christian life for all of us. I hope to live that way. I hope to teach it. And I chose that motto for that reason, to remind me and to encourage others. So.
Now, you had mentioned that in many ways your vocation was prompted, enhanced by the pro-life movement and the reality of Roe v. Wade, and you did pro-life work in the Archdiocese of Omaha. And so how do you see really the pro-life movement as it stands now moving forward into the future as a whole, since you really spent some time doing that kind of work? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the goal really is to always proclaim the truth about human life. And so I think with anything else, it's catechesis around the truth. A lot of people think the church should stay out of politics. It's not staying out of politics, it's proclaiming the gospel in the public square, in the marketplace. The church has a duty to proclaim the truth about human life everywhere. And it's not a political agenda. It's It's really the gospel agenda. And I think we shouldn't reduce it down to simple politics when the church is trying to teach and form and shape things that are related to government decisions. So.
Well, one final question I hear for you, Bishop. The new evangelization, the fact of re-evangelizing Catholics so that we can go out into the world and evangelize everyone. How do you see that new evangelization working itself out here in Grand Island?
And one of the things that I've asked people to say is, what have you noticed when you notice the Lord noticing you? And I know for a lot of people it's like the cogs are like, too many notices in there. But if you stop and think about it, it's all relationship. What happens when we as people who are baptized, whether we're going to church or not, notice God as He's noticing us? And how does that affect us? You can liken it to two high school sophomores in class, in school. And the guy looks up and looks across the room and he sees the girl looking at him. And he notices that she's noticing him. And it affects him. Especially if she's a pretty girl and he likes that feeling, But he noticed that she noticed him. And then he noticed something happened in his heart. This is what we, I think, have to do with the new evangelization, is teach people to notice God noticing them. In other words, to not just know God loves them, but to feel it, to be affected by it. So my word is often to allow yourself to be affected by the love that you know God has for you.
Bishop Hanefeldt, thank you so much
You're
for joining
welcome.
us here today.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time.